We've seen the headlines over and over. Some 40% of Americans would struggle to come up with $400 for an unexpected expense. But why are so many people living paycheck to paycheck? Is there something inherently wrong with how we approach savings and money in our modern day society? Hey guys, this is Nick with Nick Does DGI, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are staying safe out there. Don't forget to smash the like button, and as always, thank you for supporting my channel. So let's get into it. I don't care what cultural or ethnic background you come from, but there is a persisting taboo against talking about money. Oftentimes, parents and schools rarely teach kids about financial education. Therefore, kids are only taught to excel in school, go to college, get a stable, paying job for 30 to 40 years before happily retiring. What kids are not taught about are about how to invest, the time value of money, budgeting, savings. All sounds like crucial topics for securing your financial future, right? Don't get me wrong, this video is not intended to bring doom and gloom, but rather with my own personal thoughts and opinions, I want to tackle the issue head on, objectively, and provide new and helpful ways for people to better their financial situations. So let's explore a few points. A shift in retirement savings, in retirement plans, declining interest rate and the ease of financing, and lastly, the silver lining with the COVID pandemic. Since the late 1970s, corporate retirement pensions disappeared to make way for the 401k retirement plans we all come to know. This allowed companies to offload liabilities off of their balance sheets and shift the burden of retirement planning onto the employees themselves. Employees were expected to decide on their own contribution amounts from their paychecks. In other words, employees now needed to know how to invest for their retirement without a sound understanding of money and personal finance. They had the option to contribute 15% of their monthly paychecks to their 401k retirement savings, or they could forego contributions and just have a higher monthly take-home pay. Thus, without an understanding of delayed gratification of investing for retirement versus having the ability to purchase a short-term one, 401k contributions have fallen below what many financial experts have recommended is needed for adequate retirement savings. Financial experts have generally required or recommended that people set aside 10 to 20% of your take-home income for retirement savings. However, according to Bankrate, only 25% of those surveyed did so. On the contrary, nearly 75% contributed less than 10%, and 21% contributed absolutely nothing. And this may or may not be corroborated by looking at the historical personal saving rate tracked by the Federal Reserve. The personal savings rate has trended downward from about 15% in 1975 to a 2.5% low in 2005 before hovering around 7% prior to 2020. Another data point that might reflect the secular decline in personal savings rate can be seen in actual 401k balances by age ranges. This report compiled by Vanguard shows how the median 401k balance for those over 65 years old is only $58,035. Theoretically, those in the 65 plus year old range were the first group of employees to contribute into a 401k plan back in the late 70s and early 80s. And please note that I am not using average balances because high income earners significantly skews the average balance up and will not accurately reflect the typical person's situation. But think about it, aside from Social Security income or other retirement plans like a Roth IRA or HSA or a paid off house, a typical retiree will only have about $58,000 in their 401k to last them through retirement. Another factor at play could be the gradual decline in historic interest rates and what that has done for consumerism. The federal funds rate, or the baseline interest rate at which depository institutions like banks and credit unions lend reserve balances to each other, has steadily declined from a high of over 20% in 1980 to essentially 0% in 2021. We are officially in a low interest environment. What this means is a reduction to interest rates on high yield savings accounts and bonds. For instance, you won't get more than 0.5% in interest yield with cash parked in savings accounts like Ali. In other words, that money is literally losing its value each year due to 2 to 3% annual inflation, so there is a detriment to having all of your retirement savings in cash. This also means that issuing and financing debt just became a whole lot cheaper and accessible for the masses. Nowadays, with a push of a smartphone, you could finance just about anything within minutes. A new car, laptop, kitchen appliance, on top of home mortgages and student loans. For consumers, it became not only easier to look at the overall purchase price, but rather the monthly payment amount. For example, if a consumer wants but cannot afford a $40,000 car, this person will likely finance said car at a low 1.99% interest rate and pay $600 a month. But Nick, isn't it great that this person was able to finance a car at such a low interest rate? Normally, I would tend to agree with the numbers, but for so many households, it seems like this financing option is heavily abused. One monthly payment here and another monthly payment there, it really starts to add up and chip away at your disposable monthly income. Soon enough, after a half dozen monthly financing obligations, you'll be left with little to no savings by the end of the month. And if you are earning a salary, the ability to maintain these monthly payments hinge on your ability to retain employment, only adding more stress and pressure in your life to constantly be performing at your job. Let's refer back to the personal savings rate data leading up to 2020 because you'll notice something extraordinary happened in early 2020. If you have not been living under a rock for the past year, you know that a global pandemic broke out. Despite the unfortunate losses that the world has seen, there is a lesson to be learned here. You can see that the personal savings rate stayed relatively constant throughout 2015 to 2019, hovering around 7 and 8%. But in February of 2020, as we began to hear more and more about this mysterious illness breaking out in China and signs that it had already arrived in Italy, the personal savings rate creeped up to 8.3%. But by March, Italy and the rest of Europe were on lockdown and cases started showing up in North America, and the personal savings rate jumped to 12.9%. And by April, many states in the US, for instance, implemented their own stay-at-home orders, shutting down nearly all industries except for those deemed essential as we approach the peak of the first wave. After the passage of the first major stimulus bill and many millions received stimulus checks, the personal savings rate hit an all-time high of 33.7% before gradually declining to about 13% by the end of the year. But what can the pandemic teach us about our saving and spending habits? It's not that we survived the toilet paper hoarding saga, nor was it mastering the Zoom work-from-home culture. But rather, as entire industries like travel, sporting events, cinema, and hospitality were suddenly forced to shut down and subsequently reopen under significant capacity limitations, it forced consumers like you and I to quit spending cold turkey. All that money earmarked for that now canceled music festival or trip to Hawaii now sitting in your bank account. During a time where millions of people were furloughed or have lost their jobs, this spike in savings rate has sparked a new interest for savings and investing, and the urge to improve one's personal finance, especially amongst the younger generations. A Wells Fargo study showed that over 16% of Generation Z and 18% of millennials started saving more for retirement since the pandemic started. So how can people beef up their savings and retirement investments? What is the solution for balancing keeping just enough money for an unexpected emergency versus investing the rest for retirement? Many financial experts recommend people keep enough in savings to cover your monthly expenses for a minimum of 2 to 3 months. I can't give you an exact amount because some areas are more expensive than others. For example, the amount of savings you might need in a city like New York City will probably be a lot more than a rural town in Iowa. So calculate all of your monthly expenses such as rent, insurance, auto bills, food, subscriptions, etc., and determine how much it costs each month to sustain your monthly living. Next, determine your ideal retirement goal number. This amount is how much you would like to ideally retire with based on where you are expected to retire in. For example, if you live in a high cost of living area, perhaps you determine that you will need $2 million by the time you retire. Once you have a healthy emergency fund set in place and you have determined your expected retirement goal number, it is now time for you to invest for your retirement, regardless of whether that is in the stock market through a 401k or Roth IRA or individual brokerage account, or through real estate investing. The idea is to grow your net worth over time. By the time you reach retirement age, you will hopefully have enough assets to sustain your retirement living. If you are a younger person watching this video, there is no guarantee that the Social Security program will remain fully funded in 20, 30 plus years. So why not take retirement planning into your hands and start today? The slow and gradual rise of debt financing and poor financial habits have caught up to many of us, but with an abundance of invaluable resource and information at your fingertips, it's never too late to plan for your retirement. There are for sure different avenues to build wealth in this society, so you just have to find what works best for you. The most important thing is to just start. Only then will you be able to live life and retire on your own terms. Please note that this video is not intended as financial advice, nor am I a financial advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results, and please take the information with just a grain of salt. Please do your own research and due diligence when deciding to invest in investable securities. I am just an ordinary guy posting his opinions onto YouTube because I love dividends, stocks, and personal finance. If you found this video helpful, please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to my channel. This helps with the YouTube algorithm and gets my channel noticed. Hit the bell notification and receive the latest alerts, and all engagement is much appreciated. Until next time, take care.